We're live. Heck yeah. All right, let me invite my friends in here. Boom.
I love that it tells me that we're going to let your friends know. All right. Delta and Juliet are here.
Hello.
Boom. Hello.
Can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
All right.
Hey.
I'm just gonna turn off the volume.
Oh,
Okay, cool.
What is going on, you two?
Good.
Not too
Welcome to our bar. I'm surprised you didn't know about it.
I mean, we were in the
Well,
studio this time.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I said you were in the studio when we last spoke. And then the other thing was for the promo that I used, it's the bar.
Oh,
But is it this bar?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Because there was a sign in the corner that said a name, and I was like, wait, is that the name of a bar you go to, or is this your bar? Like, what is happening?
This is Base Camp.
Yeah.
It
Space
is
Camp.
our bar.
We love it. We wanted a
Base
space
Camp.
to like entertain like our friends and do like content creation and
also
theme
just
it, and it's just fun.
Yeah, we theme it up for I think Tiki season's coming up next around May. But yeah.
Tiki season?
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, most people know I'm a sucker for pirate stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you dress like one, so that's fair.
Yeah, he's been growing out like the long hair and doing like the ponytail, and he did it as a joke. Like I think it was like maybe 2 weeks ago.
Well, I did it. I was like, I wonder, and I did it, and I was like, this looks ridiculous, but I kind of like it.
So he comes in
Into Juliet, and I was like, look, I feel like granola, and she goes, oh man, I like it.
I was gonna say, Juliet, how do you feel about the beard as specifically?
Oh, I mean, I met him with the beard, and
Yeah.
so we have a video we filmed about coming out of the military. We haven't released it yet because because it's video and we're still learning like the kinks of like our video production.
Yeah,
So,
we finally took the podcast full video, so you can.
yeah, but it's a
You can
steep
find-
learning curve.
We have one video on YouTube right now. Hopefully, by the end of this week, we'll have 2 or 3 more.
Yeah.
I'm working on editing them, which it's a learning curve.
Yeah. So this is a little preview for people watching. Like we were military, yeah. So when I met him, he had a beard, and then I was in RTC. He wanted to go enlisted, and so we got married before we went on active duty.
Yeah.
Because like it's one of those things, officer to enlisted in like on active duty, like it's kind of frowned upon if you get together while you're active duty. So we were like, we're in this for the long haul. Let's just go ahead and get married. And
it made it so much easier.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay,
so.
now I have to ask, how long were you together prior to that moment?
A year and a half.
Okay.
Before we got married.
About a year and a half before we got married, and then about a year and some change before I went to basic.
Yeah, I think because I was a junior when we got married. I was entering my junior year of college, and then that following, no, it was my senior year. My senior year, he went to boot camp. Yeah.
It was kind of cool because I graduated basic training about 3 weeks before she graduated and commissioned. So I got to go back and see the graduation and also be there for her commission. And there's this thing called Silver Dollar Salute, where it's an old tradition since I think World War II.
I don't know, something like that. It's one of those really cool traditions.
Yeah, and the first salute an officer ever gets, they give that saluter a silver dollar.
Yeah, and I still have it.
I still have it.
Well, okay, all right. Well,
you gave it to me.
Sure. I mean, it's on our coin rack.
It's in the family.
Yeah.
It's in the family.
Yeah.
One word.
Oh yeah, that thing will never be spent.
For sure. And it's, some people, it's really special. some people just blow it off. They're like, okay, well, whatever. I don't have that special someone that's enlisted that I want to like have my first salute with. But for me, it was, it was my husband, and it was,
Yeah.
it was awesome. It was a fun time. So,
It
how are
was.
you? How are you, Will?
I'm doing okay. I had a little bit of a moment this morning. That was weird. I posted a video
Okay.
about it today. So I've been on a bit of a weight loss journey.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I just need to get healthier.
Yeah.
And for a long time, like I do it every Sunday morning. That's when I weigh in. I like Sunday because it like keeps you humble. Because it's like usually when you're going to do your worst activity, least amount of exercise, most amount of bad eating is going to be on the weekend, right? So it's like that's going to be probably the worst weigh in is Sunday morning. And so I found like that was my time. So I did my weigh in this morning, and I actually lost weight this week, even though I went to a whiskey festival yesterday.
Nice.
And didn't eat well. Thank you. I'm down 15.8 pounds, but here's where it got where I kind of was going through it a little bit mentally.
That's good.
That's tough to do.
It is. But for a long time, I was like looking forward to Sundays where it's like, cool, I want to see the progress. And I like got this feeling of dread last night. I was like thinking about it. I was like, I'm going to weigh in tomorrow. It's probably not going to be what I wanted to be because I didn't do as well as I hoped I would this week. And I was like, I was reverting back to I have a whole fucking chapter in the book where I talk about it's loving the process more than the outcome.
Yeah.
Right. And I wasn't listening to my own advice. I was kind of pissed off, and my wife kind of called me out on it. And then but funny enough, I got on the scale and I actually lost more weight this week than I've lost any other week. So I was like, that's cool, awesome. but which is great. But it's like, okay, I shouldn't let this fuck up my day.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm making the right moves. You're gonna have some bad days. You're gonna have some moments that aren't great, but it's really cool. Yeah. So I started at the end of September of last year was kind of when I hit my peak weight, and I was like, no, we're done with this. And so since then, it's 15.8 pounds and about 2.5% body fat.
Nice.
Wow. So it's been a cool thing. I'm doing the whole high protein, high fiber, low calories stuff. And I found I played this game of ROI in my head of what's going to make me most full for the calories. Yeah. That's the game I play. This, as much as I love bourbon and beer and other things, it's great, but I'm not going to feel full. So I've cut back on the drinking for sure. And so, but it is worth talking about, because we are having drinks in here. And for those who don't know, on Delta and Juliet's podcast, they actually have people bring a drink, and it doesn't have to be alcohol, but there's a match, and that's what they do. And so right before recording this, I said, should we have another drink tonight and talk about it? And they said, well, we're going to record behind our bar. Yeah. And I was like, well, we have to do that. So.
We better.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are you both drinking?
Oh, go for it.
So I'm drinking a sour chai gin cocktail. I grabbed it. It's a recipe off of Empress Gin, and I love Empress Gin. Not only is it great gin, they just make really beautiful cocktails. And for the wintertime, I love fall winter flavors. I mean, I'm biased because my birthday's in November, so nice. A little biased.
My wife too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember we were talking about it last time. And so I just love those flavors. They're just so good. So I found this recipe on Empress Gin, and typically it requires an egg white. But half the time, I usually forget to add the egg white, but it's still really good without it. And then I just add a little bit of sparkles, which you probably can't really, I don't think you can see, but we got little edible sparkles. It just makes the drink look fancy.
So. Hey, there's something to be said for making a drink look cool, look fancy.
That's one of the best parts is just making it look fun.
Yeah.
That's part of what I fell in love with, learning to make drinks.
Yeah.
Thanks, COVID.
It's Well, yeah, I think a lot of people do. I know for me, because I've bartended at various parts of my life too, and even now I still work in a brewery one night a week, bartending, or I guess beer tending. And you're right, there's a craftsmanship, and I'd gotten away from it, and then COVID said, well, I'm at home, I've got nothing better to do. Why not just play around with cocktails? And I still do that from time to time at home. I remember I got one of those like smokers where you can like smoke your
yes.
bourbon. I did not do that for this one, but no, I love that with the wood chips and the torch and just making it,
It's
giving it
so
that.
good.
Yeah. Oh,
A smoked old
yeah.
fashioned.
We got one of those from Bespoke Post.
Oh, nice.
I've had Bespoke Post for what? Probably a
Couple
good
years. Yeah.
more than that. Got
I
it
get their
6
ads
years.
a lot, so like, but I mean, it seems like it's just like cool shit that they send you. Like,
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
the fact that you can just like skip it if you don't want to pay for it that month is fantastic.
Yeah. It is nice.
But that's not a plug or anything. I just love it.
yeah, no, we have no sponsors of the show yet.
No.
I
That
mean,
is a plug.
half of our equipment for camping or bar comes from Bespoke Post.
Yeah.
Really?
And it's, some of the things that we get from them, if if Delta doesn't go in and like select what he wants, we'll just get a randomly curated one, and it's sometimes like the value is more than the $50 that we pay for. So it's one of those where I think it really is like worth your while subscriptions if it's stuff like the kind of stuff that you like and want to use, and it's it's fun. They've got like cooking and
We should probably stop
cigars.
talking about them until they pay us.
Oh yeah.
That's
No, but
that,
it's fun. It's fun.
It's great.
Yeah.
I've had it
Yeah.
for probably about 7 years now, and
We got
I
the
always tell
little
people it's one of the best investments I've ever made.
smoker wood thing that you put on top and.
So what are you drinking?
Yeah, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking just bourbon on the rocks, so it's New Riff's rye, which they make the coolest bottles out there. Like, I swear,
Or
it's just like so.
Yeah, I'm a sucker
It's just a
for
cool
marketing
looking
and packaging.
bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, so that's what I'm doing. Delta, what are you drinking?
Just classic margarita. I am at heart a tequila guy.
Yes.
Okay.
Tequila
Okay.
and I will fuck with some rye and bourbon, but tequila and rum are where my heart is.
So I go through rum phases. For sure, where it's like I get burnt out on it because I'm just a classic, basic white dude who drinks bourbon and beer. That's me.
Yeah.
I would say
that.
no, nothing wrong with it at all. I love it. That's my shit. I will say on the beer side, I have swapped out at home. I now have I've been playing around with just various low calorie options because now a lot of places are doing low cal.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying the one that I found because it's a very obvious difference when it's like if there's like a well-known IPA you like and they do like a low calorie one, there's a very obvious change, but it can still taste like an IPA.
Yeah, it's like Diet Coke.
Oh yeah,
you can tell it's Coke, but there's something about it.
Right. I mean, but and you might still like that flavor, but don't say it's the same thing. It's not. So the one that I have found that's closest to the flavor is Corona Premier.
Okay.
It's 90 calories per can. And it's still, I mean, you can tell it's different. But as far as if you just put them side by side and blind taste it, I could guarantee there's going to be some people that wouldn't know the difference. And yeah, it's one of those slim cans. It's 90 calories. It's funny, so I work at a brewery, and I actually spent last Monday talking to our brewer about how does one make a low calorie beer? How does that even happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he kind of was breaking it down to me, and so much of it comes from what sugar you extract and what you're able to do from that perspective, and it does usually impact the alcohol content. You're very rarely going to see. I actually don't think you can see a beer. This is a challenge for a brewer out there. A beer over 5.5% that's under 100 or 100 calories or less. You're just not going to find it.
I never thought about that. I've never really been one to worry about calories. I usually look at it from the perspective, at least for me personally.
Well,
I am tiny, but
you can do 6 sit-ups and have the 6-pack abs. So
I'm not going to comment on her physical appearance. You, as her husband, can do that. But I would agree. And some people are just like that. For me, I've had to put a lot of concentrated effort into it. But I'm enjoying the process of the whole weight loss journey. That was my big thing. I was I don't want to be miserable. I don't want to be miserable. I don't want to hate my life. Because I've done that in the past. I've lost considerable amounts of weight at a time in short periods of time because I can just be a maniac and go all in on it. But that's cool. You got there. but odds are, typically I went right back to my old habits. I'm trying to instead go about it from like, let's just make more conscious decisions along the way and be smarter across the board. And if we do that, so my goal typically is around a pound a week. That's ideal.
Yeah.
You know?
Nice. Yeah.
So you need,
That's yeah. You always want, I always get caught kind of like you with, I can either be a maniac and do it all in 2 months because going into basic, I had to lose
Oh man, you were
quite a bit because I had been training for special operations, and then
Right.
I lost that slot for some eyesight stuff. But I was too heavy for just them taking me straight into basic. So, and I wasn't all solid muscle and just super lean. I had some, packaging material.
you
on
were
me.
like skin and bones when I saw you at graduation.
I know.
It was
but,
ridiculous. I was like,
Right, it's like,
you just,
are you okay? At a certain point, are you okay?
yeah. No, it was. It was.
It was.
It was not good.
I didn't feel great. I went to a doctor after that, and he was like, "You need to gain weight.
You're malnutrition or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so I had to lose probably about 15 to 20 pounds in about a month,
Oh.
and we also had a cruise in that month because once I lost that slot, they were like, "All right, well, we have a job that starts in what was it like February?"
Mm-hmm.
Which was in 2 months, and I was like, "Oh crap! Well, I can't just not go on the cruise. We paid a lot of money for that."
Yeah.
Right.
So on the cruise, I was like running, like they had a track and everything every
It's a
day.
fun track.
But also halfway liquid diet, halfway, not eating, halfway. My math is terrible, but
We didn't have to.
There's a lot of halves in there.
So,
that were
there's a lot of halves in there. But now, after getting out of the military, like I just went straight to Pentopotamus, which is I just let myself go. I was like, I don't have to get up. I don't have to work out anymore. I'm just gonna, and I regret that because now I'm having to work my way back down from 250 to hopefully around 200, and right now I'm around 230.
You're doing really good though.
I've plateaued for a while and just kind of honestly gave up for a little bit.
Wow.
But I'm starting to do that get back into that, and
To be fair, we've had a lot of like life things in the last couple weeks.
Yeah,
As
the second week of the new year, my dad went to the ICU with a brain bleed.
Yeah.
So I had to go back and be with my family, and thankfully Juliet went with me because she was amazing. But and
I didn't want to go though.
my parents are a piece of
But
work,
I went.
so
I
it's
went.
a little difficult to deal with them, but I mean it's family.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that we just kind of
I
like
just threw everything off.
yeah, because we had started like the first week of January, trying to make a video series of a 90-day jump start.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call it like a New Year's resolution because that never works for me. And it's not like I want to be here at the end of 90 days. At the end of 90 days, I should be where I want to start the rest of my life. Like I should have developed habits to carry me through the rest of the year, the next 2 years, the next 3 years. I want to look at it as a life change instead of I'm going to go on this crash diet for 90 days.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I wasn't trying to be a dick when I was like, oh, I don't have to worry about calories. When I was trying to like,
you don't.
for me, fuck. And I'm clumsy, very clumsy. I look at, okay, well, I'm going to look at food that's like nutritious. We're going to cook more. Yeah, it's a hot mess. But like just be more intentional about like what ingredients am I putting in my body? Is it just preservatives? And we're not cutting out like frozen pizza from Red Baron because that's like my crack. That is my crack. I don't know what they put in that tomato sauce, dude.
Crack.
But that's like it is the best tomato sauce, especially with frozen pizza. Okay.
It's okay.
I love it. That's a very specific thing, but I dig it.
Yeah.
No, that's the thing. You have to
It's
you have to work
so
it in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you know what? Like just like Delta was saying, like building those healthy habits of like, okay, we're gonna have fresh veggies, you know, and
Yeah.
if we can't have fresh veggies, then we have a bag of frozen veggies from Costco, you know, just having like that protein intake and not like doing away from like carbs and whatnot, but just kind of
Yeah,
dialing back
don't
and
ever do away from carbs. Your brain runs on carbs and
you need
fat.
Right.
carbs.
You
There's a
can't. I
whole
mean,
joke about that in The Fall Guy. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that movie yet.
yeah, I love that movie.
So good. But Ryan Gosling like has a joke to Aaron Taylor Johnson. He's like, "Your brain literally runs on carbs. Like you need it. Like you
Yeah.
can't not have carbs.
Oh man,
But
that's one of
be
my
smart."
favorite. I love Guy Ritchie movies, and that remind. It's not Guy Ritchie, but it kind of reminds me of that, like an Americanized version. Because I'm in the after the military, I started finally doing something I've always wanted to do, which is I started film school for cinematography,
Yes.
and I'm loving it. And that movie just was, oh, it made me giddy. Just seeing all the behind the scenes stuff, I'm like, holy crap, they did that decently. Of course, they know way better than I do. I'm just in film school. They're actually out there making movies.
Well,
But
you got me with Guy Ritchie because my wife knows The Gentleman is one of my.
two of my
That's good.
favorite movies ever.
It's
I
So
love it.
I actually think it's in my top 10 favorite movies of all time.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
just so
absolutely.
enjoyable. Where you were talking about also tying into this, you were talking about kind of the weight loss part, but then you also were on the cruise. So my wife and I are about to go to the Dominican next Saturday.
oh,
We're doing
nice.
7 days at an all inclusive. So lots of
Hell
food, lots of drinks, all that stuff. It's great. But for someone who's like kind of on a goal, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
So I think my plan is like I'm probably not going to lose weight while I'm on this week, but let's try not to gain more than a pound when I come home.
So
If we can do that, I think we're in a safe place.
Yeah.
yeah,
And there's other fun things you can do,
Yeah.
like to kind of be active.
One of the
Oh,
biggest
walk on the
things I
beach.
hate
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
hearing people on diets or trying to lose weight is, oh no, I gained a pound. So fucking what? How many pounds have you lost?
Yeah.
15, 20? And you gained 1 or 2? Forget it. It's like doing these better, like just getting better at something is always a goal. Like for me right now, it's discipline and intentionality because I have lost those completely. I have a stack of edited videos I need to edit that's probably as long as a fucking garden hose. And like especially being ADHD, I just it's hard for me to sit down and do that, especially without wanting to use medication or anything. Because tried that as a kid, just did not fly with me. So I have to find ways around not around, but I have to find ways through just being able to use that as an excuse of, oh no, I slacked off for 2 days, or I gained 3 pounds, or whatever. Okay, cool. You messed up for a bit. It's not the end of the world. Get back on the horse and ride.
Yeah, I mean, I think you put it as a good point because a buddy of mine and I were talking about this the other night. We were talking because I was telling him he's kind of been someone I lean on for accountability in this, and him and I were talking. I was like, dude, I'm not gonna lie, I've been looking forward to this vacation for a while, and I'm feeling a little nervous about it because like I don't want to fuck up my whole momentum I've got. And he called me out. He's like, dude, think about it. He's like, forget the trip, forget everything you're working on right now. Just talk. You and I know numbers. We talk statistics all the time. Look at it from a statistical perspective. That week is a statistical outlier. It's an anomaly. It is not the norm.
Yes.
Right. So
yes.
First off, accept that for what it is. The second part is like when you look at the collective average. Right now, it seems like a lot because you've only been at this for a couple of months. It seems so that data point weighs a lot. But if you're talking about over the course of a year, how bad is that week really gonna be in the grand scheme of the year? Like as long as you're making the right moves in general. And that's also, he's like, also you're down at the time when we were having this conversation, I was down like 12 pounds. And he was like, Will, do you realize like what it would take to gain 12 pounds on 1 week. Like,
Challenge
you would have to eat.
accepted.
Yeah, he was like, you would have to be in a surplus of calories of like 8,000. You're not Michael Phelps. You're not gonna, like, you would have to try to do that. And so he's like, so you're not gonna, undo everything. But even if you did, okay, you still know how to do this. You get back on the horse, like you said. Get back on the horse, keep getting after it. And I think it's a great, like, whether it's weight loss or, like you said, whether it's just something you're working on in life, a goal you're trying to keep, I think it's really important for all of us to take a step back and like remind ourselves, like, no one's perfect. We're all human. We're gonna screw up along the way, but like,
Absolutely.
if you have a North Star, if you have something you can reach for, and then along the way, just like know, like, you're trying to. It's not about this short period of time. It's for life,
So
right?
so often, especially at least for me, when I was, I mean, any sort of goal should be a long game.
Right.
There should be no goal that can be accomplished in 3 weeks. That's not a goal. That's an interest or something.
Milestone,
But I mean,
Yeah.
for some people, you know what? If you're starting out, 3 weeks can be a goal.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like I was about to say before I, ADHD'd myself off the cliff here, but we so often, especially starting out, are ready to get better. We're ready to lose weight. We're ready to be what we're visualizing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it gets really hard to get through those first 3 to 6 to 9 weeks of why am I not better yet? Because first 3 weeks, you're doing everything you need to do every second of the day because you're fired up about it.
Right.
And then, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, however long you happen to be fired up about it, you hit that goal of, all right, cool. Well, I feel a little better each day. For me, I always use my example of anxiety. Was 3 weeks was probably 3 years
Yeah.
of why is this not better yet? Like I'm seeing my counselor. I am, chanting my mantra. I am doing all these things that I'm supposed to do. I'm reading the books he's told me to read. I'm watching the videos, taking the advice. Why is nothing changing? And then my counselor finally told me, what's changed is you're questioning where you're at. You're not simply living in fear of, well, what is the next day going to bring? You're asking yourself, okay, why why is this sparking my anxiety? What do I need to look into? What do I need to do for this to stop? That's the difference. And eventually that difference will turn into your brain rewiring. And it's kind of like that with this. I'm a very, by nature, pessimistic person. So I'm always focusing
That look on
on,
her face said everything I need to know.
so I'm always
for those who
focusing on
can't
the
watch.
negative.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but hey, being a positive person, being a pessimistic person, they're all just views. It's okay to be
And they both have value. Like,
yeah, they do.
They both have merit.
But I will always focus on the negative, and especially trying this whole 90-day thing. Our first month, January, is absolutely fucked. Like, so much shit happened in our life this first month of this year that I kept saying, all right, well, let's just start over.
And I'm like,
And
no, like we've been filming.
yeah,
Let's just keep going.
and
like,
you know
it's
what? I'm like,
fine.
okay, well, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
Fuck the whole YouTube
Just
thing
keep
of,
going.
guys, this went great.
Yeah.
I can come on the video and be like, holy fuck, I fucked up.
Yeah.
I have been drinking Coke. I have been eating my feelings because it's
honest. It's raw.
It
it's
is
real.
Yeah.
The 90 days is not about getting to a goal. It's about a shift in my habits.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you were saying earlier, of being worried about that 1 week. I mean, we all should be when we reach something that we're worried about of like, okay, well, is this going to mess me up? Is this 1 week, even though it's outlying, even though it's an anomaly in this whole thing,
Yeah.
holy crap. Dude, you should be jumping up and down that it's an anomaly now.
It's vacation.
Yeah.
Woo!
And I have a big problem with that of, even though this is an anomaly, it's going to worry me up till the day I'm done with it.
So do
Right.
you guys have like any sort of fun like activities planned for your vacation? Or is this just sort of like we're just gonna go with the flow and just see whatever's happening?
So it's funny. In my opinion, there are two types of vacation. There is we're on a fucking mission. We're go go go. You can plan it as much as you want,
Yeah.
or as little. But like in general, it's like there's constantly something happening. Then there's the person who goes on vacation who's like, I just want to relax and chill and not worry about a damn thing. And I learned those two things because my wife and I are the different ones. My wife is a person, when she travels, it's like, this is not very often. Let's do this. We're going to go all in. We're going to go balls to the wall, everything. And I'm a person that, like, to me, vacation is when I just, for a week, I don't worry about jack shit.
Yeah.
And I just enjoy it. And so, but I see value in both,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like with her, so we've been to Europe twice in our relationship, and like when you're in Europe, like, you know, we're Americans, like we're not here very often. We better make the most of it. We better enjoy it. Let's go around, let's see all the things and do all the things, and that's great. But it's one of those trips when you're done, you're like, I need a vacation.
I need a vacation from that. Yeah.
Yeah, I need a vacation from my vacation.
Yeah.
And so we kind of started implementing like this idea of like, okay, for every one of those, we're going to do one like this. So this week, that's why we did the all inclusive. We're like, we're going to get picked up by the hotel service. We're going to get to the hotel, and we're not doing we're going to wake up when we wake up. We're going to
Oh yeah.
drink when we want to drink. We're going to eat when we want to eat, and we're just going to roll with it. And like everything's stuck there, and it's going to be great for that reason. I think both, like to this, and it's also like, did I say about all inclusives too? To me, if like money is a part of the equation, is like, I can see when I travel with my wife, her like doing the mental math of like, okay, this dinner was this much, this this thing that we did here was like this much, and it's all these things, and I can see like the tally running in her head, even though like we already planned
I
ahead,
can relate.
we already knew we were good, but like either way, like still doing the math. And so we went to an all-inclusive in Cancun, which, you know, we've been a lot of places in our relationship. That's still my favorite vacation to this day, even over my honeymoon, because it was the 1 week where I wasn't seeing the mental math in her.
Yeah.
You know, we were just having fun. We're just enjoying it. And so that's what I'm looking forward to in this trip too. So yeah. So that was a long-winded way to say, on this trip, we are going to do whatever we want, whenever we feel like it.
That's great.
There is something to rest.
Yeah.
Whether it's in physical training, which I tend to focus on when I'm trying to lose weight, that's just, I mean, I grew up laying brick, paid my way through college with kickboxing, military, tried for spec ops. I'm a very like ADHD. I physically want to do things, and so when I'm trying to lose weight or something, it's like, all right, cool, gym every day, 5 hours a day.
But you
can't
outwork a bad diet.
I know that's my problem.
Yeah, and you can't outwork a bad diet. It sucks. Trust me, I'm with you. I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, I can just go nuts at the gym and do all these things, and I'll still eat whatever I want.
Nope.
And it work. It doesn't work.
Nope.
And you can't do it, but I mean, it's just like it's a way I enjoy going through the journey, is like physically, especially I love being in the gym. Unless I'm about to go to the gym, then I hate being in the gym. But once I'm there, I'm like, this is great. I could be here for 3 hours and, you know, not blink an eye. Whereas Juliet is always like, you know what? We have 1 hour, and I'm like, but you're encroaching on my fun. This is my rest period when I'm working like this.
And I'm like, Yeah, okay, fun, but there's also dinner to worry about.
Yeah.
Like, if we
Right.
don't have anything prepped, if there's not, we've been kind of moving towards more of like crock pot meals, just because it's just nice to set it and forget it. And like with veggies, like you just saute it. It's like 10 minutes kind of thing. But
Do rum or whiskey?
I don't know.
Rum or whiskey? Well,
Rum or whiskey?
Well, I'm a whiskey guy, but you like rum, so I think go rum.
Go rum.
So,
So
but
I'm like,
actually, oh, sorry, go ahead.
so I'm like, okay, well, we got dinner to prep, and and then like I need to be in bed by a certain time because I get up early, and we drive to the gym together. So I'm like, sometimes like our gym sessions will reach 2 hours, and I get cranky, and I'm like, this is way too much
and I'm
time.
having the time of my life.
And I'm like, that's great, but like
We have other
I
things
have
to
work
do.
that I have to like get up, and there's dinner. So the fuck, dude.
But my thing was that I was gonna get at is, you know, even like you say, enjoying you do have to learn to enjoy the process,
Yeah.
because if you
Yeah.
hate it, you're just not gonna want to do it. And there's always something about getting back into the gym that just sucks. It just sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't really know how to go like 50% of whatever I'm doing. Anything. I could just be watching TV and someone's like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Shut up, I'm watching TV."
You and I
And
are kindred spirits that way. Like balance is not a thing for me. I don't
no,
understand it. I wish I could.
and that's actually a anxiety thing is it's polar opposites. It's never a sitting in the middle. It's you're one or the other. Or I guess not anxiety. It's a trauma response
Yeah.
for I guess trauma.
Yeah.
I don't know
Trauma
what kind.
response for
I couldn't
trauma.
tell you what kinds. I'd have to probably look that up and read about it for a bit and get back to you. But like
We had to find a compromise.
yeah,
So like,
Uh,
if we're driving to the gym together, all or nothing. Sure, yes, but
yeah, and especially now with my back and my shoulders being the way they are, I have to, even if I may not like it, calculate rest into the equation.
yeah. You can't go too hard,
You
especially if your body
and you
is.
can't go for too long, even if it's something good. You can't just power through it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you need to be smart.
You need a rest,
Yeah.
even from healing. I mean, look at grief. Like you can't just power through getting better when you're grieving something. You need what show was it? Shrinking.
Shrinking on
Shrink-
Apple.
Shrinking.
Harrison
Oh, it's
Ford's
so
character
good.
says, he
So
goes,
good.
Yeah.
"Look, kid, give yourself 15 minutes a day and just let it out. Just cry about it. Do wail, scream, whatever you want to do. But when that 15 minutes is over, you're fucking done. And
Yeah.
you go on with
Was that your Harrison Ford?
It's a
Was that
bad
your Harrison Ford
one.
impression?
It's a bad one, but I always try.
Hey, I mean, it's better than not. I just wanted to be very clear. That was intentional Harrison Ford. Okay. Okay.
It's more of just a meh. But so and when I heard that I was like, holy shit, yeah. There is a balance. Even you need a break from getting better sometimes. Sometimes you
No.
need to break down. Sometimes you need to have a pity party for 15, 20 minutes. But it always has to end. And the ending part is where I have a problem because I will always milk something as long as I can.
I have
Oh,
a.
pun intended, huh?
Maybe.
I don't ask.
Anyways.
I don't ask. I don't ask questions. I don't
It's
want the
okay.
answers to.
Okay. Don't worry about it. Our therapist.
You started it.
I know.
But Julia, I have a question. I have a question for you.
Okay.
So I heard you. You were kind of when I was talking about my wife and the financial math of things and stuff. You were nodding your head like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about that experience when you travel, when you do things. Like, what's going on in your head?
So a bit of context. I grew up really poor. My parents probably would have qualified for food stamps, but I think they were too prideful to, but I mean, we did have like our local church to rely on, that kind of thing. So I guess, that's good and whatnot. But yeah, like growing up, my parents fought over money and whatnot, and I swore like that's not going to be me and whatnot. And like being in college and getting like, well, I got my first credit card at like my senior year of high school, because apparently that's a thing.
As
And
long
my
as
parents
you're
signed
18.
off on it. It's like a college like credit card thing or whatever for like fucking Wells Fargo.
All right.
And I like, no one taught me how to use a credit card
Right.
responsibly.
They just gave it.
They just gave it to me, and I racked that thing up. And then it wasn't, I think it was like, I think when we got married that I started realizing like I need to change how I look at money. And sure, maybe I've gone a bit to the extreme. But like you also have like bad
So
habits financially.
I don't have bad habits financially. I have bad financial existence.
You like to go shopping.
Out of the two of us, I'm the one that's like, get in, bitch, we're going shopping.
Yeah.
And so I grew up kind of opposite. My dad, he worked his way up from just being a poor farming kid to having a masonry empire in our town. He paved the way for many other
Literally paved.
Yeah.
Yes.
Literally. Yeah.
Him and his 5-man crew literally paved like miles of brick road that were, and they did it's a whole historic thing. They didn't want asphalt, they wanted brick. But anyways, like the universities, big buildings, big projects come to his small crew over big things because he takes pride in what he does.
Right.
And it's an art to him. But and little side note here, well, there's nothing wrong with living a simple life if that is what you enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The biggest regret I might ever have with my family is never being able to convince my father that he is more than just a bricklayer.
Yeah.
Because he constantly tells me, look, you've done this. You did the Air Force. You know how to, you're creative. Go do things. All I am is a bricklayer. I'm like, Dad, you built half this city.
Right.
Yeah.
Even the mayor has your phone number.
Well, like he came from like that. He's a boomer, so he comes from that boomer generation, and they're all kinds of. I mean, we're all fucked up, but like, they.
The only reason you succeed as a parent is if you fuck your kids up in a different way than your parents fucked you up.
I love that.
Sure.
I had that's not mine. That we don't have kids. That's just something that my my therapist told me years and years ago, and it has always stuck with me. Because I told her I don't want to mess my kids up. She goes, "Oh, you're gonna fuck your kids up.
That's
doesn't matter what you're trying to do."
Yeah,
that's universal.
The reason it's so loud today is trauma or mental health is the new, purse dog of let's just show it off to everyone so that we can. But everybody.
But it was always. But it was. I would say it was always there. It just we didn't talk about it. It's just like, but like to be fair, that's probably true with most things. Like I always really enjoy when I hear someone who's like more on the conservative side. They're like, man, I feel like more people are this or that. There are more gay people now than there were back in the day. There are more trans people. When did all this? They were always there, dude.
They were always everyone's talking about it.
Yeah, they've always been there.
They weren't in an environment where they were comfortable to be themselves.
Exactly.
And now they are, and you're shocked by that. But they always existed. You want to read about Greek history? Read about
oh my god, I love Greek history. Yeah.
Some homework. I mean
that's my Roman Empire.
Jinx, you owe me a
Coke.
blowjob.
No, not a blowjob.
Okay.
But a Coke.
You're married, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I forgot what I was originally.
I know something about you are the shopping. You love shopping.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to shopping.
So I grew up pretty well.
Yeah.
I grew up pretty well off, and all my friends knew it. All my friends called me the rich
I
kid.
mean, you had a swimming pool,
It
so.
that's true, and it does.
Was it in ground or above ground?
In ground.
Ooh.
I know.
That's a
I'm a big
flex.
swimmer, so
Yeah.
he wanted it big enough for a small kid to be able to swim laps. So it's not a small pool by any means, but it's not like a
It's
lap
decent.
swimming
Yeah.
pool either.
Yeah.
It
It's
like
like a normal. It's like a normal size
Yeah.
swimming pool,
sure,
like for a
but
home.
it's
It's
like
still a pool.
shaped for
Yeah. The
lap
fact that he had a swimming pool,
Yeah. and but my parents also had this weird I don't know what to call it except for like an oxymoron way of thinking of they thought I was an idiot. Like they didn't understand that I could learn things because
Okay.
well, at least they treated me and all my friends picked up on it. They always told me your parents treat you like they think you're an idiot. And I'm like, I know. I do know. But they also didn't teach me how to do anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it wasn't
Or
until
anything.
and I mean anything. Like I had to
Not
figure
even
out
how to
laundry on my own.
like bake fucking chocolate chip cookies. I'm like, what do you mean you
Yeah.
don't know how to make
Well,
chocolate? You just look up a recipe and you follow the recipe.
to
Like,
be fair, the first time my mom asked me to help in the kitchen, I started a fire.
okay, but like,
But I mean,
Also,
it was
you
also
learned. You learned one way not to do something.
yes, yes.
they don't have that philosophy. They have, oh, he's not good at this, let's stop.
Yeah. And like his parents are very big, especially during Christmas time. Like they will give so much, like they'll give you like very expensive, like materialistic
They're
presents.
but I mean, look at me. Our family's love language is giving.
Well, spending money.
Right.
Spending lots.
But
They'll on top of the
yeah,
gifts,
they
they'll
don't
give you
they
cash.
don't give like one thing I didn't take from them is when I give something I want it to be meaningful.
Sure.
That's true.
Whether I need to make it or not, I want you to see this thing and be like I'm never ever ever getting rid of this. I
That's true.
love this thing.
Yeah.
Where my parents are like, "Hey, do you guys just want like money for Christmas? Here's like a couple $100."
I mean,
Even more
there's
than
something to be said for that. I mean, there's something to be said for that though. Like with the money park is like at least like then you can put it towards whatever you want versus like
Sure.
them getting
And-
you something you'll
and
never
again,
use.
Speaking to their generation and the way they were both raised is my mom was raised by missionaries. They were not wealthy people by any means. And my dad, like I said, growing up was a farmer at the age of like 9.
Yeah. And like for my
Yeah.
family, like we were big on like quality time together. So I grew
Okay.
up playing board games, like any sort of games, video
I didn't know how to
games.
play board
My
games.
parents still play video games. They love Destiny. They fucking play Destiny on Xbox. So, but his parents they're just like, we just want to spend money. I don't know. Like, especially like hearing about this time around with like retirement stuff and like how your dad's concerned about how he can't afford to retire. Like, that's really heartbreaking. And I'm like, why would you?
Well, it's not that he
I don't
can't
know.
afford. He does he's never gonna stop working.
Yeah.
As much as he complains about it, he loves what he does.
Yeah.
He really does, which is admirable, especially with somebody who he's 2 years away from 70 and he's out there laying block.
I mean, yeah, that's great, but
Like,
like it's
stone and everything.
so detrimental to his health, though.
Well, no, when he sort of.
But I mean,
But
maybe caring about it as deeply as he does from from that side, maybe. But like,
yeah,
I understand. But I understand your point though. Like,
yeah,
I will say
it is a
watching
problem at some point.
Watching
Especially
some
when
people I know, age, I feel like where things start to take a massive decline is when they stop moving.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
we're at a
I
similar
think-
age, so it's weird to see like the people that you consider mentors age,
right.
especially with all their friends are retiring and they've had a couple of friends die because like you're right, when you stop moving is when things start to decline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like I can applaud your dad because it's like he's still active, he's still
Yeah.
doing it. But should it be like the thing he like stresses over?
No,
Yeah.
but to be fair, my dad, this is me saying this, my dad is the most anxious person I have ever known.
Yeah.
And I am the living embodiment of anxiety.
It's really
And
funny.
but I think he's more afraid to stop doing something than he is
I've heard those stories.
to, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, Dad, get hobbies or something.
Exactly.
You're good
Like
with
you
your
don't-
hands. Learn
Yeah.
leatherworking, sell that stuff, do small bricking projects.
Yeah.
But you gotta stop at some point.
Yeah.
And he's like, nah, I don't know what I'd do if I stopped. This is the only thing I know how to do. This is the only thing I'm good for. And I'm like,
And
no,
I think it's
look at, like,
yeah.
granted, our family situation is not great, but we have a family that, through all of this stuff, we love each other. Through everything we have gone through all the hate that has come up, the love has never disappeared. And that is
Yeah.
you.
I feel like you have thoughts though, Juliet.
She does.
Sorry.
Oh, she
Oh,
does.
sure, for him, for him. I mean, I don't.
She got thrown into the blender that I was used to growing up in.
So we have this really big disagreement. Like, I don't see as they're not my family. I see them as abusers, but I understand that Delta still wants to have a relationship with them, and that's fine. I am going to do what's best for my mental health and what's best for me, and I have conditions and stipulations before I even think about having a relationship with them again.
Which,
So,
with things they have done, is fair.
yeah.
It's a boundary that you've set up and you are not
Yeah.
willing to cave on, and that's good.
Yeah.
As much as I'm like, yeah, but they're
It's
my
hard
family.
though.
It's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
As much as I want to say, but they're my family, it's her boundary.
Yeah.
Right.
And I have to respect that, which is sometimes frustrating, but most of the time I get it.
I mean, all the time, like, well, not all the times, like the three times that I've cut myself have always been with his parents.
Yeah.
And that's how bad it gets. Like, it is an incredibly stressful situation, and it's unfortunate. You know, like, they are my biggest trigger, and I've gone on I'm still on a journey. Like, I don't hate him anymore, but I'm not a fan.
I think one of the reasons it's so shocking for
So-
me is, one, they're my family.
Yeah.
I'm bad at boundaries. My family does not understand what a boundary is. They see it as a hurdle to jump over on the way to the finish line. And so I've had to set
Yeah.
boundaries. And finally it's starting to stick that, okay, he has told us he doesn't want to do this. He doesn't want to talk about this. We'll hold off on this.
That's good, and that's really good, and I'm happy for you.
And but the reason it always shocks me when Juliet is so adamant about these is because, like, I've never had an example of a boundary to be set. And when you get shook, when you get shook by,
Oh my
like,
gosh.
you're the strongest person I know. So
I know.
when something shakes you, especially as being a very codependent, I rely on you for.
I know.
And I know I shouldn't, and I'm getting much better at being able
You
to
are.
rely on myself
Yeah.
for emotional stability.
You are.
Because a lot of us who are very codependent or have attachment disorders look at those that we attach to or fall in love with or whatever it is as saviors. And to us, that's a safe thing, but to the savior,
It's a lot of weight to carry.
no one deserves the burden of being someone else's savior.
I was just thinking, like, I don't think I've ever actually, like, publicly mentioned, not even I think on our podcast, that I've, like, ever cut myself.
Yeah.
So, ta-da! Trying to be transparent-ish.
Well, I was gonna comment on it, but I wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that the thought got done. Like
Yeah.
first and foremost, like, I appreciate the vulnerability of that, because
Yeah.
that's not easy for anyone to say out loud. And I do want to, if it's okay, I'd like to ask you a question about that.
Sure, go for it.
So as far as that's concerned, was the intent to not be here anymore, or was that more for like a different type of relief?
It was definitely a relief. Yeah,
okay.
like it was never with like I want to kill myself kind of thing. Like I mean, I've like maybe like danced around with that line, maybe, but in those three occurrences, it's always been like Delta is not understanding. Like I'm trying to get across like how I'm feeling, and he's not understanding. Like I'm like freaked out, and I'm not getting like the type of like reassurance and validity. Words are hard. And it's just like, what am I? How do I get this release of like this stress? And so, yeah, like, and it's always been around his parents.
Yeah.
And it sucks, right? And that's why I have tried to take steps of like I don't want to have anything to do with them until like I see that they've taken ownership of like the things that they've done to him and to us and to me. Um, yeah, like I did not want to go back to Lubbock because I'm like, well, shit, like, is his dad dying? Like, it sounds like he's on his deathbed, and like his whole extended family is probably gonna be there, and that's probably gonna spark a whole thing. And I'm like, I didn't want to like take away. I didn't want to like not that I was trying to like want to start drama. I wanted to respect that this is a serious situation, and I didn't want there to be any sort of drama for him or for his family. And I just thought like I should not go, but I like Delta felt differently, and I ended up going like for him.
Yeah.
But it was definitely tough, like, and we had a talk about it like that week, like I need you to understand, like, this is like extremely difficult for me. And thankfully, like, the trip went really, really well. Like no
That's
sort
good.
of drama. Like thankfully, like I had work to do. Like, and I'm doing remote work, so I use that as an excuse to like not be in the room. I mean, I stopped in and said hi, that kind of thing. And but I don't know, it's definitely there is some tension, him and I, and like how we see things, but it's I think both of our experiences are valid. And I told him, like, I told you, like, I understand that you see your parents as your parents and you love them, like, totally understand that, but that's not how I see them, and it's tough, but like we have to work to compromise and respect each other's like mental health,
Yeah.
you know.
And kind of like I was saying, it's always terrifying when you get to that level because I was always
Yeah.
the cutter. I was the one that was at one point cutting to not be here, kind of thing. And I always feel kind of guilty because I feel like she adopted that from me at some point because that's a whole other story. But it it's weird and terrifying to be the one that's used to being taken care of and encouraged and told it's gonna get better, and then you see the person saying that, doing the things that you were doing, even if it's for a different reason. Uh,
Yeah.
it still throws you back a bit.
We have a saying that trauma's a bitch, and she doesn't
Trauma is a fickle
she
bitch.
does not leave anyone unscathed. There are always like impacts,
Oh,
to like the people that you love around you.
yep.
And I think, I don't think that's really like like talked about a lot.
Right.
Like people always talk about like like the person dealing with all this stuff, but like I don't think there's a lot of stuff being said about the people around that
Yep.
person.
There's not much said about the supporter.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
taking care of somebody with anxiety can straight up cause anxiety. Taking care of somebody with depression can cause mental fatigue and depression. It's it's not like it's contagious, but it's
Yeah.
just
Well, it's like this energy that like that, it's such heavy energy that like it does leave some sort of
It leaves
like
a mark.
imprint. Yeah, it
Yeah.
leaves a mark, so, but we're good. We
Yeah,
worked through it.
You have to learn to support each other. You
Yeah.
cannot rely. Not one person cannot completely and utterly support another. That's not a relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
it has to go both ways. You have to be able to lean on each
Yeah.
other.
And sometimes it takes a while to learn that.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like, are you both comfortable doing the other role, right?
Yeah.
Are you the person who is the one that gets supported? Are you in a place where you can be supported?
Yeah.
And
And
vice
sometimes
versa.
that's a learning curve.
It is.
And then on the flip side, then you've got the other part of it, which is like, if you're the person who's always been the one holding the support, can you open up? Can you feel confident in doing that with the person that always comes to you? Like, can you even do that? I think it's possible, but it's definitely like, it takes work.
Yeah,
For
it
both
absolutely
sides.
does.
Yeah.
Like, no one ever talks about the back and forth between support.
Yeah.
It's always, well, her husband deals with PTSD, or she deals with anxiety, or, whatever it is. No one ever says, well, what can we do to help the supporter?
Right.
Yeah.
And how can we help the inflicted is a bad term for this, but I'm just going to use it for lack of a better term. How can we help the inflicted get better to relieve the supporter?
Right.
Because supporting someone who is dealing with, on some days, a daily battle of existence, that is not a role to be taken lightly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, I don't know.
I'm gonna have some gin.
Oh, here. Which one do you want?
Let's do the Rogue. No, let's do Hendrix. Hendrix is a dependable, solid.
It's a go-to. If you're a gin person, Hendrix is a solid one. And actually,
it is. Yeah, it
does the job.
In my Blackbeard glass, I'm gonna go with just a little bit of bourbon because I feel bad for leaving it out.
Well, okay.
I'm excited for you guys to go on your vacation. We're going on a cruise in June. I'm just like,
how many cruises have you been on?
3. This will be 4.
I think so. Yeah.
I think so. We're going with my sister. My sister that I found.
I'm so excited.
6 years ago.
Okay.
I'm adopted. And I was actually adopted through an adoption scam. That's a whole thing. So her and I connected because
I love Texas.
Because Juliet is very much a want to know person, and I was like, I'm not that curious, but if you want to know about my birth family, go for it. I turn around, she hires a genetic detective, and now it's your story. Go.
Yeah, so I reached out to her and I gave her she's like, okay, we'll have him do ancestry DNA. That's like what I work off of. I'm like, okay, cool. Do ancestry DNA, and she ends up finding like his half sister. And dude, it's genetics is creepy. It's cool, but it's also kind of creepy. They both had very eerily similar life experiences, emotional, abusive, parents. Well, hands up. It's so weird.
Thumbs up.
Yeah. And she has her mental health issues and whatnot. Not exactly the same vein, but
They're
similar.
there nonetheless.
Yeah, they're there, and they look alike, and they have the same mannerisms. They're only half siblings, so it's like, damn, your
it's that
genes
whole
are
nature.
Strong.
Yeah, it's that whole nature versus nurture thing.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
Nature has a lot more to play than people might think, but in that whole thing, I think there is something to be said about the third part of that equation that no one ever talks about, which is choice.
Yeah.
Nature versus nurture versus choice.
Yeah.
True. I mean, you can have two kids, same parents, grew up in the same household, and then what choices do they make?
Yep.
And I think it's fair. It's fair. It's well, I could go down a whole tangent about that, but I actually have a question for you both to answer because we brought up alcohol a couple different times on this episode. How do you both handle the relationship that you have? Obviously, you're both on your separate mental health journeys. And there's a lot to be said about alcohol and mental health and like what has that play into a role in that. So how do you both balance that?
Sure. Like you said earlier on the podcast, we always ask the guests beforehand, do you care about drinking? Because for a lot of people, alcohol goes hand in hand with their mental health journey.
Yeah.
Um,
Like we have a really good friend who he was in the Air Force with Delta in the same he was like on the same team with Delta, and he ended up having to go to rehab
mhm.
because he was struggling with alcoholism. And so we recognize that some people do struggle with alcoholism, and try we tell each other like never to use alcohol as sort of like a crutch. Now, if I've had like a bad day, like I'm like, oh, I just want a glass of wine. But like honestly, like I don't. It's like a handful of times that I've done that, so it's not
Yeah,
like a habit.
I've always I didn't even drink till I was 21. I've never really seen the appeal in it. When I was a kid, my parents were like, "Here, try this wine,"
Yeah.
and of course, it was white wine on from a street vendor on a 90-degree day,
Gross.
and so it was absolutely terrible. And growing up, you think of alcohol as like, "Oh, this must be like Dr. Pepper. Everyone loves it." It's not.
I mean, you can make
And
it
so,
taste like Dr. Pepper,
sure,
but like there's a lot that has to go into it to make it taste like
but
Dr.
we've
Pepper.
always kind of had the rule of it's never a thing to do if you are upset.
Yeah.
If you've had a bad day and you're like, okay, I just kind of want to chill for
You
a
want
bit,
to
but if you come home and you're like, fuck this, fuck the world, I need to forget about this problem, that's not the time for alcohol.
Yeah, like I usually like on the handful of times where I'm like I would like a glass of wine, I'll go and make myself a bath, and that'll be like I just need to decompress because I've had like a shit day, that kind of thing. But like we're for us like drinking is sort of like a it's like a hobby.
It is.
We like
It's something that we love making drinks. We love experimenting. Like I have a few drinks I've created that I love. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a like Juliet said, a hobby. And even though we have this whole bar, we don't really drink that much. We drink when people come over for that purpose.
Yeah.
Or if somebody's like, hey, can you make me a surf the plank, or can you make me a old fashioned? Sure, why not? You may have that alone if I'm on a certain day of I don't really feel like drinking, but I'll make it for you. Or sometimes I'm like, hey, I'm gonna have an old fashioned. Do you want one?
And we try to make it like a habit to tell each other, like, look, I don't have the mental, emotional capacity to handle much, after this long day. And I've kind of like fallen the wayside of that. I need to do better about getting back into that as a habit of like letting them know, like, look, I'm tired, I'm exhausted. And you actually the other day you told me, like, look, I don't want to talk about politics. I've had a long day at class at school from like 9 to 9, 12 hours at school. Like, I don't want to talk about politics. And I'm like, I'm sorry, like, you're right.
Which I should have said that earlier, because I came home and she was like, guess what happened? What do you think about this? I'm like, right now I say fuck the world. And she was like,
it can all burn.
Why don't you care about anyone? I'm like, right now I don't even know if I care about me. Just
which is not the day to then have a drink because
right.
You're already like angry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's never been a
escape.
We've always had the hard, fast rule of if you want to unwind and relax, sure.
That's fine.
but limit it to maybe 2 glasses of wine.
Yeah, and I don't even go.
We
Like,
really don't.
yeah.
I
Usually-
try to have like a glass of red wine a day for
Yeah.
inflammation
Yeah.
stuff, but I'm really bad at that because I don't really like wine that much. But
red blends. It's the way to go.
yeah.
Most of them.
Um,
We had one bad red blend.
yeah,
That was disgusting.
bad.
But usually when we're drinking, it's usually like, hey, like, you know,
It's a social.
it's a social, like our friends are over, or
Extra
hey,
charge for things.
social. We're celebrating something. Like, it's never, when we drink, it's never, it's
Right.
never under like a bad energy.
Yeah.
You know, outside of the occasional, like, hey, I just need to unwind. I've had a bad day, but you know.
Like when we get so the whole goal of Delta Juliet is to create a business starting with veterans because that's what we know
Yeah.
of.
It's weird to say we're veterans.
Yeah,
Like, I'm still not used to that. Like,
it's weird.
it's weird.
Um,
We want to do nonprofit, like,
to get people out. Like the biggest thing in when you're active duty is it could be reserves or guard as well. I don't know. I just say active duty because that's what I know. The biggest thing is mental health. They'll tell you all day long this will not affect your career, but
yeah.
depending on your commander, it will, 100%. And it almost affected mine twice.
Yeah. It's kind of
Especially with like the stuff we did, which was mostly boring computer crap. But even with that stuff, it affects it. And the only thing that the military knows how to do is say, hey, we'll go to mental health, talk to them, and come back in 3 days. You'll be better. You have 2 months to get better. So my first suicide attempt.
Oh,
Holy crap!
oh, what just happened?
I almost flipped over the table behind us my butt.
What on earth?
You're cut off. I'm just kidding.
My first suicide attempt was about 2 years into our service. I was on a night shift.
Yeah.
It was a really, really bad situation, terrible command, and I was the one to attempt suicide. And her command told her, "Hey, take all the time you need. We'll take care of what needs to be taken
They
care
were
of."
really great.
And my command said, "All right, cool. Be back tomorrow." I was like, "No," and they, "Okay, well, cool. We'll take 3 days. We'll send you to mental health. You get 4 visits, and then you're going to be back on duty and be okay." I was like, "Well, I don't know if it works that way," and they said, "No, you're going to be okay."
I think
That's when you have to be okay.
I think we took 2 weeks off
We ended up
because of my command.
her command got in touch.
They were like, no, we're not.
And
gonna
they were
play
like,
this game.
"Holy fuck, what's wrong with you, you
Yeah.
asinine piece of shit."
Granted, I was an officer, so I think that possibly could have played a role in it. But I really genuinely did have like a good leadership team
You did.
that cared.
Anyways,
Yeah.
our whole thing is having been there. The worst thing as a veteran that I know I can do is sit in a therapist office and talk about shit. It's the most even for regular as people, and not that military is special by any means. It's just even for civilians, it's difficult to do. And we kind of thought about it and said, what's the one thing that everyone loves to do while they're in or misses when they're gone? And that's field training. So our Delta Juliet's end goal is to set up a program that takes veterans into the wild and does
Some sort of training.
no, we're gonna contract out some mental health professionals for the weekend or the day or whatever it is, and the end of the talk, get to know each other, and at the end of the day, sit by the campfire and just talk about shit.
Yeah.
Real shit.
I envision it as like, okay, you as a group have this objective. You're gonna get from point A to point C.
And
You know?
none of that team building crap.
No,
It's
no, no, no,
like,
no, no.
all right, hold your hands and get the hula hoop around
No,
everybody.
that's bullshit. No, like you as a group are gonna go out and because there's for me, like I truly believe that there's something special about getting out of nature.
There is.
Mhm.
Like there's just
Adventure is healing.
yeah, adventure is healing. Like there's just I love nature. Although when Mr. Ballin tells some spooky ass stories of like shit happening in the woods, like that's terrifying. But like
True.
outside of that, like being in nature, there's just something very healing about it where you're unplugged from the rest of the world and you're just in this like gorgeous and sometimes terrifying place.
Yeah.
And we think it'd be awesome to get like a group of people, contract like specialists that are like survival experts and psychologists, mental health providers. You go out, we're all going to go out as a team and we're going to, maybe like get to a certain point like by the next day or maybe like make a weekend thing out of
Or
it.
even just do an overlanding thing and circle the
Yeah,
wagons for a
overland.
day.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's
Because, I
just
mean, our biggest thing was especially learning that we both heal in nature. So
yeah.
that can't be a coincidence. I think a lot of people do, whether they like nature or not, it's healing. Being away from people, being away from your problems, and
Yeah.
maybe even encountering new problems that you can, one, that you need to solve, maybe for survival, or two, that you can solve outside of the thing you've been obsessing over or surviving over
Yeah.
has an impact. And eventually, after veterans and we kind of understand what we're doing, we'll open it up to everyone, even teens at some point.
Yeah, I had my heart set on like school age kids because it seems like with social media, like I didn't have. So I'm 32. I had like MySpace.
I thought you were 20. I'm just kidding.
My first social media page was Zanga in middle school. I don't know if you've heard of Zanga.
Yeah, a little bit,
Okay.
not much.
Yeah.
My first social media page was AOL Instant Messenger.
And then I had MySpace, which I had for a little bit, but like it wasn't even like anywhere near what we have today. And then I had Facebook at some point, but again, it just like these kids are just their whole lives is revolved around social media.
Well, their whole lives is revolved around talking about what affects you, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
And there have been studies that show constant talking about your problems exacerbate your problems. Like we said earlier, you need rest.
Yeah. It's both. You need to be able to like both extremes are bad.
Yeah.
Living
Yeah,
100%, living 100% in your problems is awful.
We have a society that's bad at balance.
Right. I'm one of those people. I am bad at balance.
Same.
Yeah. So I get that. Oh, man. I love the mission that you have for Delta and Juliet. So like I can talk to you both forever, but we're now at like almost an hour and 20. So
oh my gosh, time has gone by so fast.
And I really appreciate it. So you were talking about the mission of Delta and Juliet. So right now, where are you at with it? Where can people find you, and how can they help?
Yeah. So right now, help looks like following and support so that we can kind of get, and by support, I mean input. Follow us so that we know you're there, and then give us some input on what you would like to see.
Engagement.
Yeah.
We're primarily on Instagram.
Right now, we are LLC'd, but the trick right now is figuring out what to do with an LLC, how to build that up.
Yeah.
So hopefully by our goal is by next year to have a group out in the wilderness. Talking to each other.
And we do have a few YouTube videos out.
If anybody is an editor, let me know.
We filmed so much content. It's just the issue is like editing it together
Yeah.
in a meaningful way. And so that's kind of like been we're still trying to learn. We're, it's a hurdle, but it's okay. Like we're not gonna give up. We're gonna just keep going, just keep pressing at it. But we are primarily active on Instagram, and then just a few videos on YouTube.
We have a link tree on our Instagram that will send you to the podcast, Delta Juliet, the Delta Juliet show. And really the biggest thing you can do right now is join the crew, because what we like to call the crew is our support group. You guys are our support group.
Yeah.
And we want to be your support group. We want it all to be together, because no one can travel this world alone. The storms on this just absolute vast intimidation of life cannot be navigated alone.
Yeah. And you shouldn't have
You
that.
should have a crew during the storms to get you through it. So the biggest thing you can do right now is just give us a follow and say hi.
Yeah.
Or even just say hi.
It's underrated in this whole
is.
game. Whether you're a podcast, social media, all that stuff, it is. People do not realize the value of someone just being like, "Hey, I really appreciated seeing what you put out there."
Yeah.
We are able to support each other even if we're not in the same town.
Yeah.
Just send us a message saying, "Hey, what can I do for this?" Or even if you don't even think your story is worth anything, I promise you it is. Your story will help somebody else navigate what you have been through.
Right.
Come on the Delta Juliet show. Send us just a message that you want us to read about your story, because something you have done, I guarantee you, will pave the way for someone else. Your story matters. What we need from you guys is you. We need your story. We need you to speak up and say, "Hey, I made it through this, so can you." It's not about us. It's not about giving us 1,000 followers. Hell, we will probably never get to that. But you can say something that will let someone know that there is hope.
Yeah. For sure.
And like Julia said earlier, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us pretty much anywhere you find a podcast, except for Apple for some reason. Because
I need to email Apple and be like, "Hey, I'm having issues posting the podcast on Apple Podcasts." So
yeah, but that's us.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it, and I've loved getting to know both of you so much through this whole journey, and talking about their podcast. I was actually a guest on this podcast. That's how we met. That's how this whole thing went down.
That was
It was so much
that was
fun.
our favorite episode.
We need to do it again.
Yeah,
for sure.
you need to.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I don't
And
care.
maybe one of these days, if your wife's down with it, I'd love to get her perspective, because like her perspective is just as valid and valued.
Well, not disagreeing with the value part. 100% agree on that part. However, I'm definitely more the person that's comfortable being in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Whereas she very much is not.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
So I'll ask her. I can virtually guarantee it's a no, but who knows?
Yeah, no worries.
Maybe that's the one.
Maybe one day we can just do a wives edition.
Okay, I dig that. I actually think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Because him and I talk too much as it is. So you both getting to talk would be great. So I'm in for that. Well,
Will, it was great to see you again.
Yeah, it was so good. This is so much fun. Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
I love it. I mean, that's my favorite part about this is that, like, for anybody who's listening to this later, because by the way, you can listen to this on Spotify.
No way.
For those
That's cool.
I'm probably gonna listen to myself again.
For people who are listening to it later, they're like, well, people don't know about the show that like found it after the fact or watched a clip later. This is 100% live. This is what I wanted for this show. Is there's enough podcasts in the world, there's enough people talking in the world. Like, how could I offer something different to the world? To me, it was always, let's do it truly live.
Yeah.
There's no editing. There's no prompting. I can send text threads of us talking about it. There's no script to this whatsoever. is just going to be, and sometimes it sounds very obvious that
In
there
fact,
isn't one.
like just yesterday, I messaged Will. I was like, "What the fuck is this gonna be? Like, what are we doing?"
Yeah, good question. And that's what I wanted. Because the story will write itself, and so that's what I care about more in this. Is to me, I love podcasts for what they are, and
Mhm.
I love that there's so many great stories being told. But you never know what's edited, what's clipped, what's all these things. For my show, I want it to be just a raw, authentic conversation that none of us, anyone who's participating in it, knows where it's going.
Yeah, and
And that's
honestly, we
okay.
might steal this idea at some point.
Go for it. I think it's fun. Like, to me, like that's like the most raw and authentic conversations are going to come when it's just natural.
For sure.
So, I mean, I will admit, I go into each conversation thinking where might I take this if
Sure.
like the conversation gets stalled. I never have to use any of those things.
Oh,
So
nice.
I never have to. I never have to. It always just naturally does its thing, and I really appreciate you both for coming on. So yeah, so if you are watching this on Instagram Live now, great. If not, it will be up on Instagram. It'll also be up on YouTube. And then, yeah, it's available on Spotify as a podcast. I'll have it up probably in the next, 2 hours.
Cool.
You
Awesome.
are way more efficient than I am.
As soon as it's up, we'll share it on our end. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I have to wait for it to, finish on Instagram. Instagram, that's the nice thing about Instagram stories. It immediately goes to pushing
Yeah.
it. But it takes a minute to process. I mean, we've been on this for an hour and a half now.
Yeah.
So it takes a little bit, but once that clip's there, then I can get that footage.
Sick.
And then I can
Okay.
get it.
Cool.
So
I should probably know how all this works. I really don't.
dude, on the flip side though, like you're talking about the editing side, on selfishly, this is also part of the fun for me, which is that I don't have to edit. So I just get to take the raw footage and put it out there, and I get to play. Oh, it's live. So
Cool. Well,
I like
it's always great talking to you.
Yeah,
It's
thank you.
Even though we've known each other for maybe 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Man.
It always feels like talking with an old friend.
I appreciate that.
For sure.
I appreciate that sentiment. And hopefully when I'm in Denver here soon, I can see you guys.
Hell yeah.
100%. We're not doing anything that day. So
yeah, I will definitely keep you posted. I'd love to come by the bar here. But I'll definitely keep you in the loop on that. It's basically just a long layover. I have 6 or 7 hours to kill in Denver. So yeah, we'll figure it out.
All right.
Hell yeah. All right.
Cool.
Well, thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah.
You all have a good
All right.
night.
You
You too, man.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.